The proof that you understand a thing is that you take actions. So if you don't take actions, you didn't really understand it. Any faith that does not lead to action, it is not faith at the end of the day. If I say, come and take 1 million naira from me at the junction, the proof that you believe that is that I see you at the junction. So if you say you believe and you stayed there and you were waiting, that means you didn't believe I was ever going to bring the money to the junction. So I want to say that after today, we can start to implement based on this understanding, okay? And I titled this session, The Starting Formula. Somebody say the starting formula? Okay, so I'm just going to read a little bit and then we get into the teaching. And it says, creation has a formula. Whether you're building a business, writing a book, designing art, starting a family, or creating something entirely new, there's a divine order to how creation works. We do not have we do not have to invent the formula from scratch. God already modeled it in Genesis chapter 1, like I always say. Every single truth that I discover, like I said yesterday, I always go back to check if it has a truth foundation. So it wasn't just me that invented it. As a matter of fact, we don't invent anything. We just discover things. You don't invent truth. You discover the truth. Every single thing that we're using today, the light, the airplane, like we spoke about yesterday, those guys just realized it. They just became conscious of it. Since the earth was created, every single thing has just been existing. It's just for us to come into the consciousness of those truths. Okay? So when we go to that Genesis chapter 1, we see something very, very profound. Every single thing that God created, it created first with imagination. Okay? So the first place we see as creative, which is our number one, is imagination. Your imagination is your vision. Okay? So we don't see through our eyes. Our eyes are just tools that help us see an expression of physicality. So we see through what? Our mind. That's where our vision is. You notice so many times in scriptures, even though God wants to do something for somebody, he will not be able to do it until the person can see it. So there's so many things that are currently available in our reality. Most of us cannot see them because of our minds. Our visions are blurry. Like you're sent to 1 million people and you're seeing 10 people. There's no how the formula can work, meaning our visions have to change. So when you're starting, one of the first things that you have to do is to have a vision. And we see this that before God created, he envisioned creation. Okay? Because he says, let there be light. Meaning he had seen it in his imagination and is calling it into reality. So secondly, I'm going to say, if you're writing, you can write number 2. You can put it words. Anything that you have in your vision, in your mind, that you haven't spoken into words, it hasn't come into reality. You have to speak them. Okay? So we start by imagining them. Okay? Once we imagine them, we have a vision about them, be it a craft, be it your personal brand, the way you want people to see you, you have to start speaking it into words. So after some time, when I started to find purpose and decided to want to work doing exactly what God had created me to do, one of the first things that I did was I changed my name. I used to go by a very different name. And one day I woke up and I changed my name to King Giwa. It wasn't because I was just trying to be, like that was the way I saw myself. That I knew that God had created me to be a king of my industry, king of my world, king of the gifts that he has put in my hand. So I decided to change that and I started to call myself that. One of the reasons why I broke out from a lot of things that I was addicted to at the point was one day I was reading the book of Proverbs and I saw that it stated that maybe getting intoxicated with alcohol and drugs is not a problem to the civilians, to the commoners. But as a king, you have to be alert. Because why? People can come into your kingdom anytime, and as the king, you have to be alert. You have to give them strategies. You have to be conscious. So I saw the two people. Did I want to be the commoners or do I want to be the king? oh, I really want to be the king. So I had to cut out a lot of things because there are things the kings do and there are things that the commoners would do, okay? So like once the imagination comes, I could see myself being that person. I started speaking it into words. Okay, this is the kind of person I want to be. I don't do this anymore. Even at the point where I was still doing the things, but I already started speaking it. Yeah, you speak it with being audacious, knowing that you can see that vision. So even in that moment, because nobody ever gets to see your mind, but there's something that propels you to begin to say it. Sometimes people have an issue with Joseph, that why did he go and tell his brothers that they were bound down? But that's the power of vision. Like sometimes it's so hard to keep it. And you know the funny thing, if you really go through that story, you would understand that if he never spoke about it, he would have never been arrested. He would have never been taken into the Egyptian hands. So you see that even speaking it was part of the propelling force that pushed him into destiny. So when the vision comes, we should be wise enough to also speak it. When I say speak it, I don't mean announce it and go and tell everybody that I'm expecting $1 billion. But you should be able to speak it. Even speaking it to yourself, like self-affirmation is so important. Like going to the mirror to say, this is who I want to be, is so important, okay? So we see imagination, vision, and then we go to actions with words. And then next, we're going to add purpose. You have to define the purpose of that thing. It is so important to define the purpose of that thing. And we see this in the beginning also. So everything is created, light, the land, and then God begins to give everything meaning. Okay, so the light, you rule the day, you give people this. Even after he creates man, he then comes back and says, okay, man, this is your purpose. Dominate, rule the world, continue to create out of the things that I've put here, begin to create more things out of those things, okay? So we imagine, we have a vision, we speak the words, and we make sure that those things have a purpose. Like whatever craft you're doing right now, that thing needs to be properly defined. If you're doing fashion, you need to have defined the purpose of that fashion. Okay, who are the people that I want to sell to? Because you're not meant for everybody. And that's the truth you need to accept at this stage, that I am not meant for everybody. If you're in the tech space, you need to understand you're not meant for everybody. Even as little as Apple phones are not meant for everybody. That's why the guys that make Technos, itel, they know their market. They're not trying to beat these guys out of the market. That's why they are cheaper. So you wouldn't put them equivalent. These guys are making their phones for a different set of people. So like that's something we have to always go back to, especially when we're trying to start. We start by vision, we move into speaking words, and then we do what next? We define the purpose. Okay, so number 4 is where a lot of creatives don't ever get to, which is the manifestation, okay? So what he saw in his vision became a reality because he took steps. I'm just going to go forward because I want to merge these two topics together, which is also in the book is titled Starting Formula 2. But this is where I was going to when I was talking about what me and Mr. Uche were talking about yesterday. And this is something that makes a lot of people not start. Okay? So I'm just going to read what I put here a little bit. It says, starting is among the most significant hurdles for many creatives, entrepreneurs, and visionaries. I've seen countless people get stuck here, endlessly planning, overthinking, and waiting for the perfect moment. In this chapter, you will learn how to start now and gain the mindset and tools to fight every conscious and unconscious resistance holding you back. Okay, so like I already mentioned, one of the things that would hold you back from starting is perfection. Okay, so if there's anything I want you to take out of today is perfection is an illusion. Okay, and for somebody like me who likes things to be perfect, I had to heal from that word perfection. So perfection is what? Is an illusion. Perfection is not real. It's not a real thing. And this is one of the things that hold us back. Like we don't start. So I'll give an example. If I wanted this to be perfect, I wouldn't have done it. So we would have not done this class. I would have never met Uche today, I would have never met Yusuf, I would have never met Gift, because I wanted this to be perfect. Now, one of the things that I wanted to be ready before we do this class was there's a whole setup that's supposed to be behind it. They couldn't get the setup fixed yesterday. I wanted this class to be filmed with 2 cameras, and our second camera is not available today. But because of this principle, I decided to jump in and start. And one of the reasons why you actually even have to start without it being perfect is because when you start, that's when there's room for improvement. So yesterday, me and Uche were talking, and we're talking about how there were things that he ought to have already started putting out that he hasn't put out. And I'm like, if you really want to move, you really have to just put out those things. Put it out at the version 0.0.0. Because, like I always say, go back to history and go and read and go and see. Every single one that started, they started with imperfection. So you see the Facebook. Facebook started with a very basic version. And they kept improving. Version 2.0, version 3.0. And then it just begins to progress. Go and check out the first ever car they made. The first ever car they made didn't look like anything that we're seeing now, but they were able to just do the first version. And there's somebody here now that has just had one idea for 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, some of us a decade, and those ideas just remain. One of my mentors said one of the most wealthy places you would go on earth is the graveyard. Because when you get to the graveyard, you see failed dreams, dreams that were never actualized, visions that just died inside of people. And I owe it to myself, and I've told myself that when I get to my grave, I don't want to go with any vision that I have inside. It's better I put out pieces of those visions that people can take and run. Because at the end of the day, those visions are not just for you. You can be the one to start those visions, and somebody else will run with it. There's a scripture in Habakkuk 2 and verse 2. It says, write the vision down, make it clear, so that whoever is coming can take it and run. Okay? So there are visions that we even have inside of us that because of our need to make it super perfect, it never comes into life. And sometimes those visions are just for us to start. We might not even have the power to take it and run. I think most of us are Christians, and there's this general overseer, Pastor Enoch Adejare Adeboye. He's not the founder of the church, but the founder of the church permits me to say he didn't have the mental faculty to move the church to be a global vision. Because why? He was an illiterate. Okay? But he started the vision. And somebody took it and somebody ran. And now all around the world, you find it 5 minutes on every street. 5 minutes on every street because somebody started the vision. So what is that thing inside of you that you're still scared to put out the version 0.0? And now, one of the things that I highlight here that makes you have this perfection mentality is comparison. And I want you to write that down. And you might not have figured that out ever since, but it is comparison. Now, the only reason you are seeing that something is not perfect is because you're comparing it with something else that you've seen. Okay? That is the only reason, when you wear your outfit, you look at the outfit and you say, this is not perfect. Because in your mind, there's something else that you're seeing. There's somebody else that you've seen, and you're like, no, this is not the way the person put this thing together. So it is comparison. And if you need to start, you would have to delete every form of comparison. So you are in your own world, you're in your own reality, you're starting at your own pace. It doesn't matter how anybody started theirs. It doesn't matter how fast they moved. You need to be comfortable in your reality. I'm not saying this to cancel the place of excellence, but perfectionism is a mentality that you need to take out, because you're only trying to be perfect to merge to somebody that you're comparing yourself with. And the thing at the end of the day is that you never know what is going on with the other person. You don't know why the person started that way. It's possible that person had leverages that you don't have. Okay, so we should be able to like start wherever we are. So that's one of the mindsets I want us to get rid of. Okay, that we start small, and that's even very, very scriptural. That we start small. God intended to create billions of people, but He started with 2. So where's the mentality coming from that you want to just start with a big office, big team? Every single time I have noticed that somebody starts a vision big, it always calms down. One of my mentors will say, he uses wealth as an example, and he says, you don't get rich to manage wealth. You manage wealth to get rich. It's from the bottom to the up. It's never from the up. If you start at the up, you're going to come down. If you jump, you're going to fall. Okay? So we want to make sure that we start at version 0.0. Okay? Am I seeing people that are starting from version 0.0? So another trap that keeps beginners stuck is comparison. You look at someone 10 years ahead in your industry and you cannot measure up. This kind of thought kills creativity. Okay? Another thing that I want you to do today is to understand the place of fear. So fear is one of the reasons why people don't start. And I wouldn't even call it fear. I'm calling it fear so that I can explain that it's not even fear. Because fear is precaution over a physical reaction. So if a lion comes in here, we would run. We were scared, we were afraid. That's fear. But you not wanting to start because of a future outcome that you see in your mind, that's not fear because it's not real yet. So that is called anxiety. Okay? Fear over a future perceived reaction or something that would happen in the future. That is anxiety. And now, what is the opposite of fear and anxiety? Like I mentioned yesterday briefly, the opposite of fear is faith. There's nothing like non-fear. It is faith. So you're either working in faith or you're working in fear. And like we had a little understanding yesterday, we say faith without an understanding is fantasy. So we're now saying that for you to be able to do that thing and believe that it would work, there's a faith component that needs to come up. How is that faith going to come? That faith is going to come based on an understanding. So what I want for us to do, even like as we conclude this topic, even as we get home, like this is so crucial. What I want us to do is that when we go home, we can now begin to think, how can I change the desires into expectation? Okay? Can I get a marker? Desires and expectation. Okay, my drawing is not so good, so please, you guys don't laugh. Okay? Desires and expectation. So, let's say we have this guy. I would have loved if this guy was facing here. But let's give this guy a gun. Okay? And we have this other guy. Eyes. This is his hand. Please, I said don't laugh. I'm hearing somebody laugh. Please, I don't want to see you tomorrow here. So this is, we'll call this guy desire. And we'll call this guy expectation. Okay? And I'm thinking of something. Okay, let's do this. Okay? And this is you. And we have this guy, desire and expectation. Now, in this battle that we go through every single day, expectation always wins desire. No matter how you want to see it, no matter how, it doesn't matter if you're black, light skin, blue, expectations will always win desire. This is the reason why you desire to be consistent, yeah? But you expect that you are the person that is not consistent. So you end up not being consistent, okay? We see the definition of faith. It says faith is the substance of things hoped for, evidence of things not seen. That's an expectation. So the moment you can move your expectation from being wrong to being right, your life changes. So the moment you can turn your desires into expectation, everything begins to change. Some of us have like really good desires like we want to earn more. But inside, we have an expectation of failure because humans don't have an issue believing. Like everyone is a believer. Every single one believes in something. So if I tell you something that you don't believe, that means you believe that that thing is not to be believed. That means at every single point we're believing something. If I come to you today and I tell you, there's this guy, he died 2,000 years ago, his name is Jesus, he rose, and he's in heaven, and you say, I don't believe, that means you believe that what I'm saying is not believable. That means you believe something. So one of the major things that we do is that our expectations are always false. Our expectations are always fighting our desire. And that's one of the places where meditation is so good. Because in your meditation, what you begin to do is that you begin to use words to change your expectation. Because as long as your expectation is wrong, it will be contradicting each other. That's why I say sometimes when you meet people, what you want to do is that you want to preach faith to them so that what their expectation can change. Most people, the issues they have is just their expectation, not that they have a belief problem. So they believe, but they're expecting, their mind is not fully on this guy. So you want to make sure that even at a subconscious level, like what you're expecting is right. That's what makes something bad happens to somebody, but the person just knows that they wired their mind to the point that the only thing I'm expecting is supposed to be good. Everything works together for my good. It's not one spiritual gimmick. Like you can build your life to the point that this happened. So I think it was in 2023 December. I was on my way to church on a Sunday, and I crashed my brand new car that still had leather on the seats. And when I crashed the car, I came out of the car and I was watching service online. And I came out, I left the car and I continued the service and I was dancing. Like I went at the top of the bridge. I already called people to come help me tow the car and I continued service. And when the guys saw me, the thing was weird to them. They're like, why is he excited when something bad just happened? It's because of this, the way that that thing didn't really mean anything to me. That thing can change my mood. Like there's a place my consciousness is, and I knew that thing was working together for my good. And I've soon learned to understand that thing worked together for my good. Like it's a law. So I don't know if I explained it yesterday. It was Uche I was talking to when I was saying that one of the consciousness that has changed my life is that I understand that every single thing that happens on earth has two sides. There's nothing that doesn't have two sides. So we have a black, we have a white, we have up, we have a down, we have a front, we have a back, left, we have a right, like positive, negative. There's nothing. Even a human being, you have your front, you have your back. You have your outer, you have your inside, okay? We have the female, we have the male. So if that law is true, and there's this law in physics, I think, Uche did physics. That year, I saw you in physics classes. So there's this law that everything is microcosmos of each other, okay? Meaning if something works in this arena and is true, it's supposed to work in this arena, okay? So if a law works in transportation, if you take that same law and you put it in another arena, that law is still supposed to be true. Okay, so if we know that law is true, that everything has two sides, meaning there's nothing that happens to you ever on earth that doesn't have two sides. In the moment, sometimes it doesn't seem as though, but this mindset, it will change everything about you. This is the reason why I don't get angry. Because when something bad happens, what I'm trying to do, I just train my mind. I'm looking for what is the good thing out of this thing. Because I know it is impossible for that bad thing to not have a good side. For that thing to exist in this place called earth, it has to have two sides. Sometimes it takes me a week to find the good side. Oh, this is the good side. And that's what I hold on to. And if you go back to scripture, you see this is why scripture is now saying 10,000 fall and right, another 1,000 here. But me, they don't come near to me. That's what I accept. Like that's the mindset that I carry. You now see where it says, let the weak say, I'm strong. Like it's a consciousness. That's what you're accepting. And there's the point that like that just becomes your reality. Like that is what you begin to feed on. Okay, so we don't digress. So one of the major reasons why I said this is I want us to change our expectations. Now, if you truly believe that that idea would have a positive result, you would have done it. And this is just true. If you really know that that thing inside of you will give you $1 million by next year, if you started now, you would actually do it. So one of the reasons why you're resisting even doing it as much as you do it is because you still have a whole lot of negative expectation. You're still telling yourself, what if it doesn't happen? What if I quit my job and I quit everything that I'm doing and focus on this thing? What if it doesn't happen? If you choose that, if you switch that narrative to when it happens, like every single thing can literally change. The way you start to push it would change. So what I want us to do is to really go back home and change our expectation. Most of us, our desires are right, because 90% of people I've met, they want to really be successful. So our desires are right. But it is our expectation. And just like I said, expectations will always mean desire. It doesn't matter what you desire. What you expect will always win. And this is where the place of faith comes in. Faith is an expectation that this is what I am expecting. Then you just lock your mind. It doesn't matter what is happening. You're just expecting that I have planted my seeds, and after some months, it doesn't matter the weeds that come up, it doesn't matter the wind that blow. I just know that 3 months later, I will reap my corn. I'll take my corn. Or I'll have to wait for 3 years and I'll get my cocoa and I'll have my cocoa tree. So it is a faith. Faith based on what? An understanding. If the person that planted cocoa did not have an understanding that cocoa takes 3 years to bring its fruit, after 1 year, you will lose your faith. But there's an understanding that makes the farmer, like he doesn't finish his seeds. He'll eat the part and he'll keep some seeds. Somebody will see him as foolish. That why is this guy, instead of eating the whole yam, you are keeping the head of the yam? It's because he knows that he's going to plant that. Do you get? That is faith based on an understanding of what he already knows, okay? And this is what I'm going to end on. I really want us to journey into a season of study. There is nowhere faith is built without study, knowledge, okay? Even when we ask for wisdom, you can't get wisdom without study. It is impossible. Wisdom is the right application of knowledge that you already know. So if you're asking God for wisdom and you don't have a knowledge base, God will still redirect you. The wisdom is that He will redirect you to go and study. Because there are things that you ought to study. There are things you ought to study. One of the reasons why Solomon was wise wasn't just because one spiritual thing just dropped on him. The right application came upon him and understanding, but he had words that he was studying. Why? Because his father was a poet. His father was a writer. David was such a good writer. Why do you think he knew to go and sacrifice to get God's presence? Because he knew it. He read it. He didn't do it like he was guessing. He knew, he had faith in that thing because he knew that that is what you do to get the presence of God. Some people go and cry to find God's presence, but he just knew to sacrifice. And he didn't sacrifice one, he sacrificed 1,000 bull. Do you know what 1,000 bull is in today's currency? Let's not even use a bull, let's use a cow. How much is cow? Okay, you're supposed to do 300K cow. Wow, that would have been a long time ago. Because that's price for ram now. Ram is 500K. Cow is 1.5 million now. You need to go back to your ranch. They've been cheating you. So yes, cow is 1.5 million. But let's just say 1 million. 1 million times 1,000. That's 1 billion. So he sacrificed 1 billion in today's currency because he's looking for God's presence. So he sacrificed 1 billion. Like, just imagine how he was killing the cows and everywhere was becoming a bloodbath. And he killed the cows and he went to sleep. And there's one thing about sacrifice. Every spirit understands sacrifice. And God comes to him that night and says, bros, wake up. What do you need? And he says, what? I want wisdom. I want an understanding to do what? To rule your people. That is still an answer because of understanding. Because why? God, just like we made basis yesterday, we are on earth to do two things: please God and serve people. Any gift that you want to use to serve people, God is more than willing to enhance those gifts. If it is just for yourself, He didn't say, give me wisdom for myself. He said, give me wisdom and understanding to be able to rule your own people. That's such a setup. But that was based on an understanding. Okay? So this is a call for us to really go back into study. Okay? We might not be able to study in the same capacity, but there's a place for study. And I want us to make it systematic. If there's a time of the day that you're always going to pick a book and just make sure that you're reading, you're charging your brain, it really helps. And that is the place where wisdom begins to flow from. Instead of making the mistake, you just see other people that have made the mistake, and then you can begin to move. I really wish that most of the things I know now, I knew them 5 years ago. I would have moved really, really fast. I knew things I would have started a long time ago, but I kept waiting for them to be perfect. The day I found this information, I just started to move. If you check in your industries, everything you're doing, you see so many people that you're better than. So many people that you're better than. But the only thing they have is that they start and they make moves. There's an artist called Speed Darlington. Who knows him? Who knows Speed Darlington? Okay. You imagine, we all do. How's his music? Okay, we can all laugh, okay? But the thing is that we know him. Why? Because he started and he's just showing up and he's just doing his thing. So imagine you that have the talent, imagine you that have the gift, imagine you that have the eyes, but nobody, even your family members don't even know you yet. So I really want to push us into a season where we begin to start. Make sure it's not perfect. Just start 0.1, okay? You can't improve what you've not started, okay? So thank you so much, and I hope this lecture blessed you. God bless you. Can we clap? Okay.